in a layman's language, futuristic thinking is about looking past the events that are happening now.
It means thinking out of the box, moving away from path dependency, which is determined by past experiences. Instead, we think that we can choose, plan, and determine our future.
So futuristic thinking basically means planning for the future. If you look at countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Seychelles, Mauritius, the leaders were futuristic. That's why they are where they are now, economically, socially.
In the past, our experiences are such that we were victims of colonialism. The colonial state was not designed to improve the welfare of the indigenous people of this part of the world. However, notwithstanding achieving independence at the same time as East Asia, within 30 years, East Asia had transformed into middle-income countries and Eastern Africa had not. So the purpose of answering why futuristic thinking is important now entails selecting an economic model and political model which is most advantageous for economic growth, and secondly, probably comparing different models. The model in the West is liberal democracy, and that in the East is command or authoritarian, and coming to terms with whether the two models or either of them can produce a hybrid. Is development and democracy possible together?
Futuristic thinking is not just for political leaders only, even religious leaders. You need to ask themselves, 5 years from now, how will they be conducting services? How will they reach out to their people? Right now, in this corona lockdown and social distancing, people are not going to church. And some religious leaders cannot reach their faithfuls because they had not planned for a future in ICT, using technology to reach out to people in their homes.
We need our transport systems to work. It means, for example, right now we have too many cars and too few houses.
Right now, we cannot have things like total lockdown for most of our countries. Why? Is because we never planned for these things or anticipated.
At the moment, the dissatisfaction is breeding pressure for terrorism, for crime, for revolt.
Social protection in African countries, in East Africa, it is missing. That's why we can't have lockdown. People will starve in their homes, there'll be anarchy. We have got a huge youth bulge across East Africa and they are unemployed.
I think we have an opportunity on fact-checking. There's so much dis and misinformation thanks to technology. There's been so much fake news being spread across, and traditional media can be able to remain relevant and capitalize on this by becoming the point of reference for verified and credible information. We can also go beyond just doing that by empowering our viewers with tools they can use to spot fake news or content, whether it is video or whether it is picture or text.
Half of Africa's population in 10, 20 years from now is going to be living in urban areas. Most of them, young people, 70 to 80%. Joblessness, political instability is likely to emanate from youths who are schooled in digitization and social media and therefore have the desires of people in developed countries but lack the means in terms of formal employment.
Something else that we can also think is on rethinking media and news consumption. So people's behavior and lifestyles have changed. Appointment viewing is changing and there's an increased appetite for digital content. So as we prepare our stories for TV, for radio and print, we also need to consider producing a digital format such as explainers, which break down very complex topics and issues, and also having pieces which are self-authored, as told by people who are in the center of the story.
So futuristic thinking would have been our leaders would invest in things like employment for the youth. We need to start investing in our health institutions in our region, so that when calamities come, we don't have to get worried, because we are better prepared.
There needs to be a system where we can have trains or trams, maybe even subways, which reduce the number of hours which are being wasted en route to the places of work, and the amount of space being occupied by parking. Instead, we need high-rise buildings to replace our slum areas.
E-governance, providing goods and services on the web. Are our leaders prepared to serve their public on the ICT technology?
And Eastern Africa has a lot of natural endowments, oil and other resources. We have agricultural economies, but if we don't use our agriculture to add value and produce products, we are still too reliant on selling our raw materials.
Look at this thing called globalization. We are not prepared. So it's the West that is globalizing Africa. China has come to Africa. Are we prepared to deal with them as equals, or they are coming as stronger partners?
The security systems are still archaic. You go to a police station, the police are still taking records in longhand, and there's no digitization. There's no digitization of property records in the lands office. There's a reliance on citizens to somehow cooperate. They will only cooperate if they are included as stakeholders and people feel that there is a benefit, a tangible benefit. We can actualize ourselves by cooperating.
As we're trying to predict future events, it's really important that we have some understanding of statistics or time series data. Now, when we look at the data, and we've brushed up on our statistics, we can then take the patterns that we see in the data and simply just apply them in front of where the data trend ends, the data that we have collected ends. This lets us project forward based on the things that we have already seen. So based on the history, we look forward and say, well, if the trend goes on like this, in 4 years, the employment rate will be at 4%, or unemployment rate rather.
So today I'll take you through some software that you can use as a journalist to do predictive analytics. I'll start with what you call Tableau Public. You go to public.tableau.com. So what Tableau does, you when you have an Excel sheet, you just upload it the way it is, and it will do the visualization for you. So the second one is called Infogram. So you go to infogram.com. Again, Infogram, you upload an Excel spreadsheet. As an example, this is called a scatter plot chart, but it also has all sorts of charts you can explore. The third is called the data wrapper. Again, data wrapper does visualization for you when you upload an Excel sheet. So having worked in the media industry, I developed a crowdsourcing software called, I called it NewsVault. When you log in, you get to select any of the two stations, if it's Mount Kenya or it's Iganjo. Say you go to Mount Kenya, for example, and then we go to newsroom. You select folder, say 1 p.m. news. And this is where it gets interesting, because there are 4 versions of the story, but as a reporter, you can only access the raw version. So the edit, revised, and on air are accessed by editors. So say we select raw version. So this is where you get, it's called the main form. This is where all the news for the day are being showed by default.
A region that has just suffered serious locust invasion can rightfully view COVID-19 pandemic as adding insult to injury.
We have corona right now. 10 years from now, if another calamity comes, shall we run to other countries and ask them for help, like China, like US, like Netherlands, to fund issues that will be facing us?
COVID-19 is taking a heavy toll and will continue to take a heavy toll on the following sectors: education, leisure and tourism, including event planning, oil and gas, aviation, and transport generally, not to exclude the real estate. These sectors are suffering because of reduced activities and the resultant decline in spending power and frequency. Also, because of the wide digital divide, which makes shifting to the new normal of working online a privilege the majority cannot even dream of. At these critical moments, all leaders in Eastern Africa must be seeking out how to arrive at a compact bandwidth of projected scenarios with a view to informing strategy, policy, and planning.
East Africans have somehow remained divided by ethnicity or sectionalism and self-interest. And to change that, there will need to be some power sharing between national government and devolved government, and that's where the future of East African development and growth lies.
There is a saying that the future is not something we enter. The future is something we create. Tomorrow's challenges, tomorrow's problems, to a larger extent will depend on how we are able to plan for them today.